All right. I think I got the technical difficulties figured out now. Happy Sabbath. Those of you who are keeping unleavened bread today. And it has nothing to do with the Roman calendar. March, April, May, June. That's just what we use for timekeeping. So it's God's calendar. Sun, moon, and stars. As explained by Enoch. I'll share this for everybody. Let's see. There we go. Wish I could figure out how to share this thing when I start up, and I don't have to do that, but oh well. And cool. Looks like it loaded. All right. So Passover was last night. I didn't do a stream because it was kind of hectic. I wasn't really prepared, and then yep. So getting off work and all that stuff. So we got, let's see where I want to start at. I guess I'll start with the New Testament stuff for Christians that may be ignorant, that don't understand that this is still valid. So yeah, I'll start there and then just move on through. If it was for me, or fellow believers that understand that it's still valid, I would start with where it started, and that's but yeah, let's go ahead and go. So Mark chapter 14. And the first day of unleavened bread, when they killed the Passover, his disciples said unto him, Where wilt thou that we go? Let me go over here. Where do you want us to go and make preparations for you to eat the Passover? All right, so this is a text critical New Testament. KJV still got that old English. So he sent two of his disciples and said to them, Go into the city, and a man carrying a jug of water will meet you. Follow him. Wherever he enters, tell the master of the house, the teacher asked, Where is the guest room where I can eat the Passover with my disciples? He will then show you a large upper room, furnished and prepared. Make preparations for us there. So his disciples left, went to the city, and found it just as Yahushua had told them, and they prepared the Passover. When it was evening, Yahushua came with the 12. As they were reclining at the table and eating, Yahushua said, Truly I say to you, one of you who is eating with me will betray me. So they began to be sorrowful and say one after another, Surely not I, and surely not I. Yahushua answered them, It is one of the 12, one who is dipping bread with me into the dish. The Son of Man indeed goes at just as is written of him, but woe to that man by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. So we see the Messiah says he's the Son of Man. It would have been better off for that man if he had not been born. Enoch sees a vision in heaven. He sees the Son of Man in heaven with the Father, just like in Daniel. As they were eating, Yahushua took the bread, and when he had blessed it, he broke it, gave it to them, and said, Take and eat this bread. This is my body. What bread is that? That's the unleavened bread. That's what you eat at Passover, unleavened bread. Then he took the cup. When he had given thanks, he gave it to them, and they all drank of it. He said to them, This is the blood of the covenant. See, the covenant was always his blood. He was with them on Mount Sinai. They sprinkled the blood. They married the Messiah. The Messiah had to come and die, just like Paul talks about, and it's in the law, the husband has to die for the wife to remarry. The wife is Israel. He had to come to die so Israel could come back into covenant, because they broke everything, which is poured out for many. Truly I say to you, I will certainly not drink again from the fruit of the vine until that day when I drink it anew in the kingdom of God. So there'll be a Passover in the kingdom of God. Right? So he's keeping Passover here. He's eating the Passover lamb. They're sharing the unleavened bread. They're drinking the wine. So 1 Corinthians. Let's go to, 1 Corinthians. 1 Corinthians 5. Your boasting is not good. Do you not know that a little leaven leavens the whole lump? Purge out the old leaven, so that you may be a new lump of dough, since you really are unleavened. For Christ, our Passover lamb, has been sacrificed for us. So it tells you he's our Passover lamb now. We don't have to sacrifice a lamb. So then let us celebrate the feast. So Paul says, let us celebrate the feast. Right? Celebrate the feast. Not with the old leaven, nor with the leaven of malice and evil, but with the unleavened bread of sincerity and truth. I wrote to you in my letter not to associate with fornicators, yet I certainly did not mean the fornicators of this world, or the greedy, or swindlers, or idolaters, since you would then need to go out of the world. But now I'm writing to you not to associate with anyone who is named as a brother if he is a fornicator, or greedy, or an idolater, or a reviler, or drunkard, or swindler. Do not even eat with such a man. For what have I to do with judging those who are outside the church? Do you not judge those who are inside the church? God will judge those who are outside the church. Therefore you must remove the evil person from among you. So if we're going down to 11, he talks about Passover again. So Christ is our Passover lamb. If the feast of Passover is done away with, then we don't need a Passover lamb. Why is he our Passover lamb? So 11. Now in giving the following instructions, I do not praise you, since you come together not for the better, but for the worse. For in the first place, I hear there are divisions among you when you come together as a church, and in some part I believe it. For there must be factions among you to show which of you are approved. Now when you come together, it is not to eat the Lord's Supper, for when you eat, some of you eat your own supper without waiting for others. So one person is hungry while another gets drunk. What? Do you not have houses for eating and drinking? Or do you despise the church of God, put to shame those who do not have anything? What should I say to you? Should I praise you for this? I do not praise you. For I received from the Lord, or the Master, what I also delivered to you, that the Master Yahushua, on the night in which he was betrayed, took bread. When he had given thanks, he broke it and said, take and eat this bread. This is my body, which is broken for you. Do this in remembrance of me. So Paul quotes him as saying, do this in remembrance of me. So he's keeping the feast, and he's saying, do this in remembrance of me. What's he saying? Keep the feast. In the same way, he also took the cup after supper, saying, this cup is the covenant in my blood. Do this as oft as you drink it in remembrance of me. For as often as you eat this bread and drink this cup, you proclaim the Lord's death until he comes. So proclaim his death until he comes. So then, whoever eats this bread and drinks this cup of the Lord or Master in a manner unworthy of the Master will be guilty of the body and blood of the Master. So a person should examine himself before he eats of the bread and drinks of the cup. For he who eats and drinks in an unworthy manner eats and drinks judgment on himself, since he shows no regard for the body of the Master. That is why many among you are weak and sick, and a considerable number have fallen asleep, died. If we would evaluate ourselves, we would not be judged, but when we are judged by the Lord, our Master, we are disciplined so that we will not be condemned with the world. So then, my brothers, when you come together to eat, wait for one another. So you first come together for Passover. If anyone is hungry, he should eat at home, so that when you come together, it will not result in condemnation. I will set the remaining matters in order when I come. Right? So it says, keep the feast. And I'm not going to go into all the other verses showing in Acts and different places that they were keeping feast outside the land. For those ridiculous people that say you can't keep the feast outside the land. We're the temple. Messiah, Christ is our sacrifice. The temple's in heaven. New Jerusalem's in heaven. Alright, so that was for Christians that may be ignorant as to why we're keeping unleavened bread, because you're supposed to, and you don't have to be a Jew. Jews don't do it right anyways. Wrong days, traditions of men, same thing Messiah was rebuking people for when he was walking on the earth. Exodus 12. This is from Dead Sea Scrolls, Paleogenesis, Exodus. Yahuwah spoke to Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be to you the beginning of the months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. Speak to all the congregation of the children of Israel, saying, On the 10th day of this month they shall take to them every man a lamb for a household according to their father's houses. And if the household is too little for a lamb, then he and his neighbor next to his house shall take one according to the number of the souls, according to what everyone can eat. You shall make your count for the lamb. Your lamb shall be without defect, a male a year old. You shall take it from the sheep or from the goats. You shall keep it until the 14th day of the same month. And the whole assembly of the congregation of the children of Israel shall kill it at evening. They shall take some of the blood and put it on the 2 doorposts and on the lintel and on the houses in which they shall eat it. They shall eat the meat in that night, roasted with fire and unleavened bread. They shall eat it with bitter herbs. Do not eat it raw nor boiled at all with water, but roasted with fire with its head, its legs, and its inner parts. You shall let nothing of it remain until the morning, but that which remains of it until the morning you shall burn with fire. And this is how you shall eat it: with your belt on your waist, your shoes on your feet, and your staff in your hand. You shall eat it in haste. It is Yahuwah's Passover. For I will go through the land of Egypt in that night, and strike all the firstborn of the land of Egypt, both man and animal, against all the gods of Egypt. I will execute judgments. I am Yahuwah. That's interesting. He says gods of Egypt, plural. The blood shall be to you for a token on the houses where you are. When I see the blood, I will pass over you, and no plague will be on you to destroy you when I strike the land of Egypt. Verse 13. This day shall be to you for a memorial, and you shall keep it as a feast throughout your generations. You shall keep it as a feast by an ordinance forever. So when he says forever here in Exodus, that means forever. Duh. You see strangers, Gentiles are joined to Israel in Moses' writings. You see Gentiles joined to Israel in Isaiah. 7 days, you see the Messiah welcome you Gentiles into the covenant. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread. Even first day you shall put away yeast out of your houses. For whosoever eats leavened bread from the first until the 7th day, that soul shall be cut off from Israel. In the first day there shall be to you a holy convocation, and the 7th day a holy convocation. That's a holy. I like what the Samaritan Torah says. This is the Samaritan Pentateuch. Yeah, it's got holy convocation here. In my Emmanuel Tov translation, it's got holy reading. So if you go here, I don't want to go in there and get my book. This one here, Israelite Samaritan version of the Torah. And it's not perfect. It's got a lot of some errors in it too, but just like this one, there's some stuff missing in that one too. Well, all right, never mind. But that's it. So a holy reading, holy convocation, holy gathering, read scriptures. 14. Is that 13? 14? Hold on. Sorry for all the scrolling. 13, land of Egypt. 14. This day you shall be as a memorial for you. You shall keep it as a feast to Yahuwah. You shall keep it as a feast throughout your generations by an ordinance forever. 7 days you shall eat. And if the Messiah comes and says, okay, that's not forever, or Paul comes and says, okay, that's not forever, he's preaching against the word of God, which makes him a false prophet. Plain and simple. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread. Even the first day you shall put away yeast out of your houses. For whosoever eats leavened bread from the first day until the 7th day, that soul shall be cut off from Israel. 15, so 16. It's funny going back and forth trying to fill in the blanks from the scrolls. 16. Samaritan Torah. In the first day there shall be a holy reading, and the 7th day there shall be a holy reading. No matter of work shall be done in them, save that which every man must eat. So you can work with food that only may be done of you. That doesn't mean go outside and strike up a fire, but you can make your food. 17. You shall observe the feast of unleavened bread, for in this same day I brought your armies out of the land of Egypt, your people. Therefore you shall observe this day throughout your generations by an ordinance forever. There's that word again. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month at evening, you shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the month at evening. So evening to evening. Starts 14th day of the month at evening, 21st day of the month at evening. So 14th day was yesterday. We've got clear. Turn off. Okay. So yesterday, 14th at evening, 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, 20, 21. So next Tuesday. There shall be no yeast found in your houses for 7 days. For whoever eats that which is leavened, that soul shall be cut off from the congregation of Israel, whether he is a foreigner or one who is born in the land. So Gentiles can be grafted into Israel. Same thing, all the way from beginning to the end. You shall eat nothing leavened. In all your habitations you shall eat unleavened bread. Then Moses called for all the elders of Israel and said to them, draw out, take lambs according to your families, and kill the Passover. You shall take a bunch of hyssop and dip it in the blood that is in the basin, and strike the lintel and the 2 doorposts with the blood that is in the basin. None of you shall go out of the door of his house until the morning. 22. Yep, sorry about all the scrolling, trying to find the passage. I guess 31 is the next one. Yep, 22, 26 there. 26 and 32. So 21. 23. Okay, so for Yahuwah will pass through to smite the Egyptians, and when he seeth the blood upon the lintel and on the 2 side posts, Yahuwah will pass over the door. So this wasn't Lord in the old translation. This would be the Tetragrammaton, which is why they capitalize it as Lord. So I won't say Lord. You will pass over the door and will suffer the destroyer to come into your houses to smite you. You shall observe this thing for an ordinance to thee and to thy sons forever. It shall come to pass when you be come into the land which Yahuwah will give you, according as he hath promised, that you shall keep this service in this month. It will happen when your children ask you what you mean by the service, that you shall say, it is the sacrifice of Yahuwah's Passover. We passed over the houses of the children of Israel in Egypt when he struck the Egyptians and spared our houses. The people bowed their heads and worshipped. And the children of Israel went away and did as Yahuwah had commanded Moses and Aaron, so did they. And it came to pass that at midnight Yahuwah smote all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sat on his throne, and to the firstborn of the captain that was in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of cattle. And Pharaoh rose up in the night, he and all the servants, and all the Egyptians. There was great cry in Egypt, for there was not a house where there was not one dead. And he called for Moses and Aaron by night, and said, rise up and get you forth from among your people, my people, both ye and the children of Israel, and go and serve Yahuwah as you have said. 32. Take both your flocks and your herds as you have said, and be gone, and bless me also. So bless Yahuwah, bless me also. The Egyptians were urgent with the people to send them out of the land in haste, for they said, "We are all dead men." The people took their dough before it was leavened, their kneading troughs behind, being bound up in their clothes on their shoulders. The children of Israel did according to the word of Moses, and they asked of the Egyptians jewels of silver, jewels of gold, and clothing. Yahuwah gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, so that they let them have what they asked. They plundered the Egyptians. The children of Israel traveled from Ramses to Succoth, about 600,000 on foot, who were men in addition to children. A mixed multitude went up also with them, with flocks, herds, and even very much livestock. They baked unleavened cakes of the dough which they brought out of Egypt, for it wasn't leavened, because they were thrust out of Egypt and couldn't wait, and they had not prepared any food for themselves. Now the time that the children of Israel lived in Egypt was 430 years. At the end of 430 years, to the day, all the Yahuwah's armies went out of the land of Egypt. So, verse 40. Verse 40. Nope. Go figure. Okay, so now it's got the same thing in verse 40 here. That's not correct. Not correct. I don't know why he did that. I don't know why he did that. So much stuff to dig through to try to find the truth. It's ridiculous. But I'm good at digging. Praise Yah. Google Books. Books not good. Nope, I don't want that. Nope. Playbooks. Here we go. Alright, so Exodus 12. So go over here to different translation. Exodus 12. This is Dead Sea Scrolls Bible. Martin Begg, Peter Flint. Right, so here, the Septuagint, the Samaritan Pentateuch, and apparently Apostle Paul in Galatians 3:17 understood the 430 years in Exodus 12:40 to include 3 generations from Abraham to Jacob. The Masoretic text and 4Q Exodus C confine the period to the time in Egypt alone. The debate evident in these ancient texts continues to this day. There's no debate. It was a promise given to Abraham from Canaan until there. So if you go here, Egypt drove. I don't know why that's missing in here too. Alright, let's go over here. So Samaritan Pentateuch, if you go over here, there's no way they were in Egypt 430 years. It doesn't work. They were in Egypt about half that time, and they were in slavery about half that time. So it comes up to like 100-something years slavery, 230 years in Egypt, or somewhere around there. I did the math. I went through all that. So you can do the math. You don't have to take my word for it. Exodus 12:40 in the Samaritan Pentateuch. Now the sojourning of the children of Israel and fathers of them who dwelt in the land of Canaan and in Egypt was 430 years. The land of Canaan and Egypt. That's the correct reading. They were not in Egypt 430 years. Exodus 12. This is the Brenton Septuagint, sojourning of the children of Israel while they sojourned in the land of Egypt and the land of Canaan was 430 years. Not hard. Not hard at all. Galatians 3:17. Galatians 3:17, and this I say that the covenant that was confirmed before God in Christ, the law which was 430 years after, cannot disannul that it should make the promise of none effect. So Abraham got the promise. 430 years later, they left Egypt. So 40, 41, 42. A lot of scrolling. Alright, so At the end of the 430 years to the day all Yahuwah's armies went out of the land of Egypt is a night to be much observed to Yahuwah for bringing them out of the land of Egypt. That's what Christ was doing when he did the Passover. He's remembering, keeping the commandment. This is the night of Yahuwah to be much observed of all the children of Israel throughout their generations. Yahuwah said to Moses and Aaron, this is the ordinance of Passover. No foreigner shall eat of it. That is, foreigners not joined to Israel. When you get circumcised and you come into Israel, you can keep the Passover. People take that out of context and be like, look, it says no foreigner. Read the entire text, people. Sorry. But every man's servant who is bought for money, when you have circumcised him, then shall he eat of it. See? Just the next verse over. Then a foreigner and a hired servant shall not eat of it. Then it switches back. You know, it must be eaten in one house. You shall not carry any of the meat outside the house. I think it's our modern, like the way we think of things. How we reason. That's what, when we read the text, we're like, oh, I can't figure it out. It's how we reason. A foreigner and a hired servant shall not eat of it. It must be eaten in one house. You shall not carry any of the meat outside the house. Do not break any of its bones. All the congregation of Israel shall keep it. When a stranger shall live as a foreigner with you, and will keep the Passover to Yahuwah, let all his males be circumcised, then let him come near and keep it. He shall be as one who is born in the land, but no uncircumcised person shall eat of it. You see the same thing happened to Abraham. He was circumcised, and then he started keeping the feast. 48. One law shall be to him who is born at home, so Israelite, and to the stranger who lives as a foreigner among you. So when he joins into Israel, even though he's not a native-born Israelite, he becomes as an Israelite. Romans 11, Ephesians 2. All the children of Israel did so, as Yahuwah commanded Moses and Aaron, so they did. That same day Yahuwah brought the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt by their armies. Awesome. Interesting thing here. When Lot was taken out of Sodom and Gomorrah, Genesis chapter 19, there came two angels to Sodom at even. And Lot sat in the gate of Sodom, and Lot seeing them rose up to meet them, and he bowed himself with his face toward the ground. So they came at evening, and he said, behold, now my Lord is turning, I pray you, into your servant's house, and tarry all night. Wash your feet, you shall rise up early and go on your ways. And they said, so it's a lot like Abraham, wash your feet. And they said, nay, but we will abide in the street all night. And that's Messiah said we're supposed to wash feet. That's interesting. He was being a neighbor to these people. Come into my house, tarry, and he pressed on them greatly. They turned it unto him and entered into his house, and he made them a feast. So he was hospitable, and did bake unleavened bread, and they did eat. So it looks like they came to get Lot out of Sodom and Gomorrah on Passover. It was evening. Unleavened bread. He's making unleavened bread. Why would it say that? There's no reason. But before he lay down them in the city, and it just continues on. But he was hospitable to them. He brought them in, and he made them a feast. And I'm going to look something up here right quick. 3. Genesis 18. Abraham took a calf. Yeah, so it doesn't say unleavened bread when these men showed up for Abraham. It just says cakes, make bread. But then when you get down to Lot's account, it says unleavened bread. That just stood out to me. I don't know. So you can read Numbers 28. It's not in the Dead Sea Scrolls, but it's in the Samaritan Pentateuch. The 14th day of the first month is Passover at Yahuwah. 15th day of the month is a feast. 7 days shall you unleavened bread shall be eaten. The first day shall be a holy reading. You shall do no manner of servile work therein. And it goes on to list the sacrifice. On the seventh day you shall have a holy convocation. Right? So here is Leviticus 23. These are the set feast of Yahuwah, set feast. Even holy convocations, which you shall proclaim in their appointed season. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month, in the evening, is Yahuwah's Passover. So it doesn't say Moses' Passover. It doesn't say the Jews' Passover. It doesn't say the Israelites' Passover. It says Yahuwah's Passover, God's Passover. Does that change? No. We're going to see a little bit later on. It absolutely does not. On the 15th day of the same month is the Feast of Unleavened Bread to Yahuwah. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread. The first day you shall have a holy convocation. You shall do no regular work, but you shall offer an offering made by fire to Yahuwah 7 days. In the seventh day is a holy convocation. You shall do no regular work. I'm going to leave that there. Deuteronomy 16. So he repeats it 3 times. Exodus, Leviticus, Number, 4 times. Deuteronomy. 5 times when you add Jubilees in. So it's pretty important. You shall sacrifice the Passover to Yahuwah your God of the flock, of the herd, in the place which Yahuwah shall choose to cause his name to dwell there. It does not say that in the other accounts, only in Deuteronomy. You shall eat no, so in the place which he shall choose to cause his name to dwell there. You shall eat no leavened bread with it. You shall eat unleavened bread with it 7 days, even the bread of affliction. For you came out of the land of Egypt in haste, that you may remember the day when you came out of the land of Egypt all the days of your life. And also to note, we look at earlier in Exodus, they didn't have a temple, they didn't have a tabernacle, they just kept Passover leaving Egypt. Okay, and now he's telling them in Deuteronomy to do it in his place he'll choose, in his tabernacle. Jerusalem. Okay, so they had that for a time, but now that's been destroyed and we don't have that anymore. So it goes back to Exodus. You can't just, we don't do it because Deuteronomy says in the place he'll choose. Like they didn't have a temple in Exodus and they did it. Came out of the land of Egypt all the days of your life. So Deuteronomy. Yeah, it says, it has this other stuff here for the Samaritan Pentateuch, but that's not Samaritan Pentateuch. That's just filled in. They've only got 5 books. Deuteronomy 16. Where am I at? Verse 4. There shall be no leavened bread seen with thee in all thy coasts 7 days, neither shall there anything of the flesh which thou sacrificed the first day between the even, remain all night until the morning. But at the place which Yahuwah your God shall choose to cause his name to dwell in, there you shall sacrifice the Passover at evening, at the going out of the sun, at the season that you came out of the land of Egypt. You shall roast and eat it in the place which Yahuwah your God chooses. In the morning you shall return to your tents. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread. Now this is interesting. I tried to go to sleep early last night, but for some reason I couldn't sleep until 2 in the morning. I guess I wasn't supposed to go to sleep. In the morning you shall return to your tents. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread. So not 6. That's in other manuscripts. Dead Sea Scrolls says 7. On the 7th day shall be your solemn assembly to Yahuwah your God. You shall do no work on it. You shall count for yourselves 7 weeks. Yeah, okay. So I'm stopped there. All right. So Jubilees, another book of Moses, found in the Dead Sea Scrolls, kept by the sons of Zadok in Scripture. It referenced in the New Testament. So here is chapter 48. In the 6th year, the 3rd week of the 49th Jubilees, thou didst depart and dwell in the land of Midian 5 weeks in 1 year. He's talking to Moses. So that would be the year 2372. And thou didst return into Egypt. That's what I like about the book of Jubilees too. It tells us the time frame from creation. Thou didst return into Egypt in the 2nd week in the 2nd year in the 50th Jubilee. and thou thyself knowest what he spake unto thee on Mount Sinai, and what Prince Mastema desired to do with thee when thou wast returning into Egypt on the way, when you did meet him at the lodging place. Mastema, that's Satan, that's his name. And you can look at calculator. So it says the 50th Jubilee. So there's 49 years in each Jubilee. So the year 2450. So it's not the fully complete Jubilee. So the second week of the second year of the 50th Jubilee, they enter the land on the 50th Jubilee. Did he not with all his power seek to slay thee and deliver the Egyptians out of thy hand, when he saw that thou wast sent to execute judgments and vengeance on the Egyptians? And I delivered thee out of his hand, and thou didst perform the signs and wonders which thou wast sent to perform in Egypt against Pharaoh, and against all his house, and against his servants and his people. And Yahuwah executed a great vengeance on them for Israel's sake, and smote them through the plagues of blood, frogs, lice, dog flies. Newer translation says gnats. Dog flies and malignant bulls, breaking forth in blains, and their cattle by death, by hailstones. Thereby he destroyed everything that grew for them, and by locusts which devoured the residue which had been left by the hail, and by darkness, and by death of the firstborn of men and animals. And on all their idols Yahuwah took vengeance and burned them with fire. And everything was sent through thy hand, that thou shouldst declare these things before they were done, and thou didst speak with the king of Egypt before all his servants and before his people. And everything took place according to thy words. 10 great terrible judgments came on the land of Egypt, that thou mightest execute vengeance on it for Yisrael. And Yahuwah did everything for Israel's sake, and according to his covenant which he had ordained with Abraham, that he would take vengeance on them, as they had brought them by force into bondage. He also does covenant with Noah. And the prince of Mastema stood up against thee, and sought to cast thee into the hands of Pharaoh, and he helped the Egyptian sorcerers, and they stood up and wrought before thee. The evils indeed we permitted them to work, but the remedies we did not allow to be wrought by their hands. And Yahuwah smote them with malignant ulcers, and they were not able to stand, for we destroyed them, so that they could not perform a single sign. And notwithstanding all these signs and wonders, the prince of Mastema was not put to shame, because he took courage and cried to the Egyptians to pursue after thee with all the powers of the Egyptians, with their chariots, and with their horses, and with all the hosts of the peoples of Egypt. And I stood. So who's talking here? Messiah. We know who it is. And I stood between the Egyptians and Israel, and we delivered Israel out of his hand, and out of the hand of his people, and Yahuwah brought them through the midst of the sea, as it were dry land. And we. So that sounds like Messiah and Moses. Out of his hand, we. He says I and we. All the peoples whom he brought to pursue after Israel, Yahuwah our God cast them into the midst of the sea, into the depths of the abyss, beneath the children of Israel, even as the people of Egypt had cast their children into the river. He took vengeance on 1,000,000 of them, and 1,000 strong and energetic men were destroyed on account of one suckling of the children of thy people, which they had thrown into the river. And on the 14th day, and the 15th day, and the 16th, and on the 17th, and on the 18th, the prince of Mastema was bound and imprisoned behind the children of Israel, that he might not accuse them. What does Satan do? He's the accuser of the brethren, right? Lots of little hints as to who he was talking about. Accuser. Revelation 12:10, I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now has come salvation and strength and kingdom of our God and the power of his Christ, for the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our God day and night. Jubilees. And on the 19th, we let them loose, that they might help the Egyptians and pursue the children of Israel. That's Satan and his minions. And he hardened their hearts and made them stubborn. Minions, demons. And the device was devised by Yahuwah our God, that he might smite the Egyptians and cast them into the sea. And on the 14th, we bound him, that he might not accuse the children of Israel on the day when they asked the Egyptians for vessels and garments, vessels of silver, vessels of gold, vessels of bronze, in order to despoil the Egyptians in return for the bondage in which they have forced them to serve. So see, these people that are not believers are subject to Satan and his demons, unfortunately. And when we have people giving us issues and stuff like that, there's usually a spiritual reason for it. And when we did not lead forth the children of Israel from Egypt empty-handed, so Jubilees 49, remember the commandment which Yahuwah commanded thee concerning Passover, that thou shouldst celebrate it in its season on the 14th day of the first month, that thou shouldst kill it before it is evening. They should eat it by night on the evening of the 15th from the time of the setting of the sun. I don't know why it says 15th here. Should be 14th. For on this night, the beginning of the festival and the beginning of the joy, you were eating the Passover in Egypt, when all the powers of Mestima had been let loose to slay all the firstborn in the land of Egypt. So the powers of Satan were let loose to slay all the firstborn of Egypt. And it says God did it because everything's under him. See, he don't have to be the person that's going through slaying everybody. If he allows it or he commands it, it's him doing it. From the firstborn of Pharaoh to the firstborn of the captive. That's like when the king issues a decree. I know we're so far removed from having a king or understanding what any of that means. When a king issues a decree, kill everybody or something, all the people, his soldiers go forth and kill everybody, but what do people say? The soldiers kill everybody? No, they say the king did. He issued the order. Happy Sabbath, Will. Excuse not to participate. Yeah, it's sometimes it's an excuse and sometimes it's just ignorance. I just yeah. Sometimes it's because Father don't want him to do it. He blinds them to, you know. It's not really a nailed down, this is what it is kind of thing. I mean, it can be, but I think there's a lot of confusion understanding the word and what to do, being in the captivity that we're in. We're not returned yet. Speaking a polluted language like English or any of the Bible languages. It's not Hebrew. We're trying to understand Hebrew words and God's words through a polluted language and in a polluted nation, being brought up in a polluted, you know. It's a lot of confusion, put it that way. So I have a little more compassion on people now than when I first came into it, in which I didn't do the feast then, but people are confused. They don't know. Some are doing it out of just pride, or I know it was this way, or yeah, it's a number of different things. From the firstborn of Pharaoh to the firstborn of the captive, maidservant in the mill, and to the cattle. And this is the sign which Yahuwah gave them into every house on the lintels in which they saw the blood of a lamb of the first year. Into that house they should not enter to slay, but should pass by, that all those should be saved that were in the house, because the sign of the blood that was on the lintels. And the powers of Yahuwah did everything according as Yahuwah commanded them. See, it just like the king said. And they passed by all the children of Israel, and the plague came not upon them to destroy them from amongst them any soul, either of cattle or man or dog. And you look at Job also. Satan had to go and get permission to mess with Job. Once he got permission, God said, okay, go ahead, but you can't kill him, but you can do anything else. Go ahead. And you see the same thing happens to Abraham in the Dead Sea Scrolls, where he went in front of God about his son Isaac. He said, you see, Abraham's faithful and all this stuff, but if you take his son, you know. So he said, okay, we'll try that. But Abraham was faithful. He offered his son up. So, and the plague was very grievous in Egypt, and there was no house in Egypt where there was not one dead, and weeping and lamentation. And all Israel was eating the flesh of the paschal lamb and drinking the wine, and was lauding and blessing and giving thanks to Yahuwah God of their fathers, and was ready to go forth from under the yoke of Egypt and from the evil bondage. And remember thou this day all the days of thy life, and observe it from year to year all the days of thy life, once a year on its day, according to all the law thereof, and do not adjourn it from day to day, or from month to month. For it is an eternal ordinance and engraven on the heavenly tables regarding the children of Israel, that they should observe it every year on its day once a year throughout all their generations. And there's no limit of days. This is ordained forever. Okay, so some people say, well, this is the children of Israel. Well, if you can't believe in Messiah, like Romans 11, Ephesians 2, if you believe in Messiah, if you're in Messiah, you're grafted into Israel. You're no longer Jew or Gentile. Paul tells you that. So then this applies to you. But if you're not a believer, if you're just a fake, I believe in Jesus, I said the prayer and I got baptized, that's fake. Then this doesn't apply to you. So you got to figure out, okay, am I a real believer or am I a fake believer? Hebrews 4, verse 9, 10, there's a Sabbath rest that remains for the people of God. Read Paul correctly. So if you believe in the Messiah of Israel that come and died for our sins, then this applies to you. And the man who is free from uncleanness and doth not come to observe it on its occasion of its day, so as to bring an acceptable offering before Yahuwah, and to eat and to drink before Yahuwah on the day of its festival, that man who is clean and close at hand will be cut off, because he offered not the oblation of Yahuwah in its appointed season. He will take the guilt upon himself. Let the children of Israel come and observe the Passover on this day of its fixed time, on the 14th day of the first month, between the evenings, from the third part of the day to the third part of the night. For 2 portions of the day are given to the light, and a third part to the evening. That is that which Yahuwah commanded thee, that thou should observe it between the evenings. And it is not permissible to slay it during any period of the light, but during the period bordering on the evening, and let them eat it at the time of the evening until the third part of the night. And whatever is left over of all its flesh from the third part of the night and onwards, let them burn it with fire. And they shall not cook it with water, nor shall they eat it raw, but roast it with fire. They shall eat it with diligence, its head with the inwards thereof, and its feet they shall roast with fire, and not break any bone thereof. For the children of Israel no bone shall be crushed. Now I did make some lamb, but it's not a lamb sacrifice. My Messiah is my Passover lamb. For this reason Yahuwah commanded the children of Israel to observe the Passover on the day of its fixed time, and they shall not break a bone thereof, for it is festival day, and a day commanded, and there may be no passing over from day to day and from month to month, but on the day of its festival let it be observed. And do thou command the children of Israel to observe the Passover throughout their days, every year, once a year, on the day of its fixed time, and it will come for a memorial well-pleasing before Yahuwah, and no plague will come upon them to slay or to smite in that year in which they celebrate Passover in its season, in every respect according to his command. And they shall not eat it outside the sanctuary of Yahuwah, but before the sanctuary of Yahuwah, and all the people of the congregation of Israel shall celebrate it in its appointed season. He's the king of the whole earth. His sanctuary is in the heaven, and New Jerusalem is sitting up there in the heavens. The church is found in the one verse misrepresented Paul's words. Yeah. Paul confuses me. So, 2 Peter 3:15 through 17, be careful that you don't twist Paul into lawlessness, as people do the other scriptures. Yeah. Got to be careful with Paul. So, we have a sanctuary, a temple in heaven, and every man who hath come upon its day shall eat it in the sanctuary of your God before Yahuwah from 20 years old and upward. That's another thing. 20 years old. You got to be 20 years old. For thus it is written or ordained that they should eat it in the sanctuary of Yahuwah. It is not for women and children. So that's what the word says. That ain't me. I'll get to that. And when the children of Israel come into the land which they are to possess, into the land of Canaan, set up the tabernacle of Yahuwah in the midst of the land in one of their tribes, until the sanctuary of Yahuwah hath been built in the land, let them come and celebrate the Passover in the midst of the tabernacle of Yahuwah, and let them slay it before Yahuwah from year to year. And in the days when the house hath been built in the name of Yahuwah in the land of their inheritance, they shall go there and slay the Passover in the evening at sunset of the third part of the day. So it even tells you in verse 19, when the house hath been built in the name of Yahuwah in the land of their inheritance, that's what they were supposed to do. It's been destroyed now. And they will offer its blood on the threshold of the altar, and shall place its fat on the fire which is upon the altar. They shall eat its flesh roasted with fire in the court of the house which hath been sanctified in the name of Yahuwah. And they may not celebrate the Passover in their cities, nor in any place save before the tabernacle of Yahuwah, or before his house where his name hath dwelt, and they will not go astray from Yahuwah. This applies when his tabernacle is standing. Again, it's not. And do thou, Moses, command the children of Israel to observe the ordinances of the Passover, as it was commanded unto thee. Declare thou unto them every year, and the day of its days, and the festival of unleavened bread, that they should eat unleavened bread 7 days, and that they should observe its festival, and that they bring an oblation every day during the 7 days of joy before Yahuwah on the altar of your God. For you celebrated this festival with haste when you went forth from Egypt, till you entered into the wilderness of Shur, for on the shore of the sea you completed it. So if you're saying that there has to be a temple or someplace to go to celebrate Passover, then you're saying that the Israelites were sinning when they did what he said, to keep Passover leaving Egypt and unleavened bread, which is wrong. Alright. Now, if you made it this far, you made it to the good part, which all that was good too. But so this is where it gets deeper for people that are actually care. So Dead Sea Scrolls, fragment 3. Why does a man betray his brother? Let no young man, we just saw that, 20 years old and upward, let no young man or woman eat the sacrifice of Passover. This is 4Q265. So we go to Gizaberg's Dead Sea Scrolls. And we're going to go, let's see, Temple Scroll. Let them prepare in the 14th day of the first month between dusk and dark the Passover of Yahuwah. They shall sacrifice it before the evening offering, and shall sacrifice men from 20 years of age. Same thing as Jubilee said. And over shall prepare it. They shall eat it at night in the holy courts. They shall rise early, and each shall go to his tent. On the 15th day of this month there shall be a holy gathering. You shall do no work of labor on it. It shall be a 7-day feast of unleavened bread for Yahuwah. You shall offer on each of these 7 days a holocaust to Yahuwah, 2 young bulls or rams, 7 ram lambs without blemish, and a he-goat for a sin offering, and a corresponding grain offering and drink offering according to the statute for the young bulls, rams and lambs, and the he-goat. On the 7th day there shall be an assembly for Yahuwah. You shall do no work on it. And it goes down and gives some more stuff there. So when he returns, you got to do all this other stuff here too. Yes, there will be offerings and things. This will be an eternal rule for you, for your generations wherever you dwell. Then you shall offer the 1 ram once on the day of the waving of the sheaf. Okay, so we're going to leave that. That's next. So, yep, they kept track of the second Passover in the Dead Sea Scrolls. The Levites kept, the remaining Levites kept the feast. Surprise, surprise. Because it's a commandment. Calendrical document. 14th day is Passover on the 3rd day of the week. It does not say Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, but nope, 3rd day. 15th day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread on the 4th day of the week. And the 18th day is a Sabbath. 25th day is a Sabbath. So here is 4Q Passover sacrifices, peace offerings, thank offerings, free will offerings, burnt offerings daily. Yep, I don't know what that fragment is. But yeah, that is correct. The man is the woman's covering. The man participates in Passover. That's why it says here when you go, they shall eat it. The men, they shall eat it at night in the holy courts. They shall each, they rise early and go to his tent. Men only. Men only. So, but yeah. Good stuff. I think that was everything. Now, I don't use their calendar, but let's see. This calendar is correct. I do use this calendar because it's the closest I've seen to it. So, gospel worth dying for. I already downloaded it. Where's it at? Rock calendar. Nope, wrong one. Yeah, you can download it here. Gospel worth dying for. Priest. Alrighty then. It's not going to pull up. Anyways, but you got Gospel worth dying for calendar. That matches what I've got this year. So I'm just going to stick it here in case anybody's wondering. Kind of help some people out. And if you go, this is the one I used last year, but they added a week, so that's wrong. But if you go to their calendar, yeah, I like how they got this here. Awesome, except for them messing the week up. So February, March. Yeah, I like how they do this right here. So they got the scriptures, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers. I printed it out just for their little notations here. And then they got Isaac offered by Abraham, Passover, Red Sea crossing. They've got the scriptures. They got scriptures for each day. So Torah-like calendar. But as far as I see it, they're off a week because they added a week, which you don't need to add a week to get it on a Roman Wednesday. But yeah, so cool. All right, well, praise y'all. Hope y'all enjoy the ones that are keeping unleavened bread today. Falls on the Roman April 2nd, 2025. Yep. So might put that in there. Falls on Roman day, Roman calendar. There we go. In case anybody's wondering. Second. There we go. Cool. Alright, y'all have a good one. Hope this was a blessing and helpful to you. See you later.